Welcome to Education Insights. It's always a pleasure to visit with not only a superintendent, but a good friend as well, Theo Kerhoulas.
Great to see you, my friend. Great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you as well. So, hey, we're just at the end of the school year. You're going through budget season, so we got a lot to talk about. But let's just recap how you're finishing now. Make me feel old here. Year 5 as superintendent?
And in year 5, yep.
Wow. Any different in year 5 than, say, year 3 or 4?
You know, as you know, because you know, I watched you throughout all your years as superintendent. You begin to get used to some things and be able to push the car a little bit faster. You know, you've kicked the tires, you know what she can do, and then you can kick it and move it in different directions. So I'm feeling really confident. We have an incredible team as you know, at Port Huron, and all the support groups around it. And we're pushing the car. You know, we're getting things moving.
Well, the other thing that I notice, and you and I have talked about this in the past, is just having a consistent board of education is so huge for a school district. And I know that you've got a great board.
Yeah, I actually just left them. They say hi. I told them I got to run out of here. I've got to go see Kevin Miller for an interview. Oh, tell Kevin. You know, they love Kevin Miller, as do I. But they are so solid, right? They put kids first in every decision they make. And as you know, when you have a board that solid, you can really push the car as hard as you want. And they're just a really good people. They ask really good questions. They keep me accountable. Yep. They're not easy to work with by any means. They really ask hard questions, but they're a collective force of 7, and I'm blessed to have them.
Well, I think you mentioned the key point, right, is that decisions that you make at every level, whether it be the board level or in teacher meetings or principal meetings or as a superintendent, that you always think, no matter how far away you get from kids, that you think that our mission is kids first.
Right, exactly. And I don't think people really understand, I know you do, I don't think they know how much happens behind the scenes with board decisions or principal decisions. You know, I think sometimes when you see it on TV and you're watching a board meeting, you think that things just, oh, they're rubber stamping or that's a 7-0 vote. There's hours and hours and documents that go into those decisions that they make, and they're important decisions. There's a lot, you know, those are kids. Yeah. It's important stuff.
Well, I know that how much time you take, because not only are you meeting with your Board of Education, but it's a public forum as well. So I know how many hours that you need to take to not only, okay, here's what's on the agenda, but that's not just rubber stamping an agenda, it is prepping the board and your community and your parents and your teachers on everything that's on that agenda and what it means to the future of our school district as well.
Right. And I tell my 7, and I think you did too, if I remember right, if you have a question, call me. Don't worry about timing. If it's 8 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning, give me a call. Let's find out now, because I'd rather have I don't want you stewing on it. I want to get you the answer that you need. And they're really good about it. I mean, they don't if it's late or on a weekend or something, they usually hold off, and they're really good. They respect my time. But I want to know if you've got a question, we want to get you the answers.
Well, I remember when we worked together at Croslex, my policy with the board was a Sunday afternoon. If we had a key item that I knew, you know, was going to have a lot of questions on the agenda, my Sunday afternoon was to call each of the 7 board members, and you know, whether it was a half hour or an hour apiece, you know, what questions do you have? What do you need more information about that item? So I think that's when you talk about behind the scenes, that's the stuff that people don't realize of how much is done from the superintendent level on down, to, you know, to educate your board and the people, frankly, of what you're trying to do.
Actually, tomorrow, ironically, you say that. Tomorrow, I'm sitting on a panel with new superintendents in Michigan. I'm going to Lansing. They asked me to sit as a large district to represent superintendents. And there's like 3 questions, but one of them is, how do you communicate with your board? And it's really important. I learned a lot of that from you. Communication with your board is almost everything, right? If they're good people, they're going to make good decisions, but they got to know what they're talking about.
Right.
So that'll be fun tomorrow to talk to the young superintendents. I'm going to tell them, don't take the job. Don't take the job. Just go somewhere.
No, I know you better than that. So you're just coming out of, to me, I guess people that are watching this would be like your budget. Well, that's kind of boring. Well, in education, arguably, as a superintendent, that's one of the 2 key things that you do as superintendent. One is the board relationship and the relationship with your teachers and staff, but the other is that budget preparation. So, and I know that process starts early, so kind of go through the month-by-month preparation to get to a June board meeting where you have to approve that budget.
Right. Well, and the first thing is you really have to know your numbers. You have to be a numbers person. I've got a great team, a finance department led by Kate Petronell, and she's amazing, and they're really strong. But as a sitting superintendent, you got to know the details. You can't ask the board to approve something unless you've really gone through it. And the tough thing, as you know, and it's been a while since we've had to deal with this, but it's going to happen this year. We're funded primarily from the state. The state is supposed to give us a foundation allowance, so how much money per student we're going to get, and they're supposed to do that by July 1st, and we have to approve our budget by July 1st, and we don't have that number from them. We don't have their budget. And Kevin, I hate to say it, I don't even think we're close. The Senate put one out, and the House put one out, and they're not in the same ballpark. And so I'm hearing, July, August, maybe in September until we get, those numbers. So we, as I know you've done this before too, I'm speaking to the choir here, but we're being educated, but in some ways it's a guess on what we're going to get.
Yeah. We used to say, kind of throw a dart, but it's more than that. I mean,
right.
you deep in your soul, you kind of know maybe what they might do, but until they actually do it, you have to, we're paid to be conservative because you don't want to underdo it or overdo it. Say that you think they're giving this $500 increase per student and it ends up being $100.
Right.
You've just missed, by $400 times your number of students. So it's a big process.
So as you know, at the end of June, we'll approve the third quarter budget from the year we're just finishing. We're closing up, we're saying how things landed, and hopefully, in our case, always so far, we land right where we said we were going to be, or maybe a little better. And then we predict what next year is going to look like, and we ask the board to approve a preliminary budget, right? And that preliminary budget, in our case, is about $125 million. It's a big, there's a lot of zeros and a lot of numbers, and it's very detailed. And again, this is behind the scenes. The board really gets into behind the scenes. Our finance committee, only 3 of them can meet at once. So we go through all that and all the, but in some ways it's guesswork because we don't have the funding source yet. And but we feel pretty good about it, and we're in really good position. But it's a really big budget. I don't know if you know this, but Port Huron Schools, I think, is the 3rd largest employer in the county. Right? We have over 900 employees, and it's just a really big place, and a lot of moving parts, and that budget really steers all of it.
Well, I again, for the people at home that are watching this, $125 million in a company, you'd be in the top 1% of companies nationwide.
I bet.
So that's no small feat to put together. And by the way, you're charged with educating children with that budget. So it is a very important process that you go through, and then get it approved at your June meeting. Maybe not having all the figures, and this year for not.
And also, as you know, is if prices go up, we can't. If costs go up, we can't raise our prices, right? Like it's not, and costs go up, and costs continue to go up. And especially in a business where we're primarily a people business. Our product, the kids, are people, and how we grow those kids is people, teachers, and all the support staff. So the best way to teach a kid is have a great teacher and great support. To attract and retain that talent, you have to pay them. So money really is a driving part to our success. And we've got an incredible team, and I want to keep that team.
I think it's important before we leave the budget conversation to say, because as I remember, you came to Port Huron in 2015, and so the budget was not always in good shape in 2015. If I remember back about that time, there was very little fund balance, or that would be actually money in the bank, and you were running deficit budgets. And so you've come a long way to the budget process you are 10 years later now.
About that time, and I don't take credit for this, I was on the team, but not certainly my decisions didn't drive this. We were at a 4 and 5% fund equity, so money in the bank, savings, like what you do in your household. At 4%, the state starts to put you on a watch list, and it's really low. And throughout time, the administration then and now, we've built, and at the end of last year, we ended with 27% fund equity, and we'll intentionally put that's a little much. We're intentionally spending that down. We'll be around 25, and so on. and that's really important because you have to have some money set aside. You have to be able to rainy day. Heck, COVID was there. We needed money to get through those kinds of things. Now, it's time to get it to. Our board has said 15% fund equity, and I'd like to live somewhere between 15 and 20%. That's a healthy place to live. And you understand the significance of this. We ended our year settling our contracts for 3 years out with all 5 of our major groups. And that's just nice when you have labor peace, when you have everybody on the same page. And negotiations shouldn't be, a peaceful process. It's supposed to be a little back and forth, and nobody should leave the negotiation table happy. They should just leave satisfied. And all of our groups and the administrative team left satisfied. And so we're looking forward to the next 3 years with contracts in place for 3 years out.
Well, that's the good news of the budget cycle, and you've got contracts settled. And I know that one of the things that you strived to do when you took the job 5 years ago as superintendent is that relationship with staff and building upon what was happening. And they're not always exuberantly happy, but if they're satisfied and they feel rewarded, I know that's a big part of what your job is as well.
Yeah, and it's not just pay, right? Like the pay, the money, that is what it is, and we left, both sides left wanting a little more and got a little less, and that's fine. But what I'll never do is underpay in the way we thank people, because our teachers and our support staff work their tails off every day. It's what I call the most difficult but most rewarding job in the world, with kids. And honestly, I can't thank them enough. They're such a great team, and I try to let them know that as much as I can. I learned that from somebody. There was another great team that you worked at, and you were their biggest cheerleader, and I hope I'm
well,
the biggest cheerleader.
I think if you're in this job, that should be job number one. Most people don't realize that in most school districts, between 75 and 80% of your budget is in people. It's not things or buildings, it's people.
Absolutely.
So you're investing in your staff. When we come back after the break, we'll continue with Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools, in a moment on Education Insights.
At Lake Huron Medical Center, our dedicated staff are committed to providing comprehensive care that meets your individual needs. We take time to listen to your concerns, understand your needs, and develop a customized treatment plan just for you. Trust in our expertise, experience our compassion, and let us be your partner in achieving optimal health. Visit us today and discover the Lake Huron difference.
Semco Energy Gas Company is dedicated to you with a focus on customer service and fuel today for a sustainable tomorrow. Semco Energy works hard to make your time with family and friends warm and cozy. Semco Energy Gas Company. Natural gas works for Michigan.
Welcome back to Education Insights. Always a pleasure to talk to Theo Kerhoulas, the superintendent of Port Huron Schools, and it's a great time of year because as a superintendent or even as a building principal or a teacher, you're always gratified to see all those graduates, come across the stage. And to me, that's one of the defining moments, is to see everything that you do in your job, what it means to each and one of those students that they've gotten their diploma. So talk about the process and about just being a superintendent at the time of graduation.
Yeah, it's so rewarding just personally. I sit back, they throw their caps, and I just know that I had a small part in getting them across that finish line. The graduates, just such an amazing day, because it's from pre-kindergarten to 12th grade, all the parent support, the family support, the teacher support, the community support. We always say it takes a village. Well, we know it takes a village to get kids across that stage. And sitting there at Port Huron High School's, rich tradition of a graduation ceremony for 150 years, and Port Huron Northern, your alma mater for 60 years. And what you might not know is honestly my favorite ceremony of the year, and I speak at them all, and they're all wonderful and whatever, is our Phoenix and Adult Ed. So this is our alternative ed and adult ed graduation ceremony commencement, and it's just amazing. This year we handed a diploma to a 92-year-old gentleman, Mr. Harvey, who came back to us and after leaving during the war and wanted his diploma, and he got it, right? And those single moms out there. The stories will break your heart, some of the things that are going on in people's lives, but they know the value of education. Yeah. And that ceremony is incredible. You can watch them on a certain channel around here, and but I love graduation, to hear the stories of where the kids are, where kids, young adults now, where they're ending up. We've got them going around all over the country to schools, and some staying local and some moving on. It was really powerful to watch. Another one of your alma maters, SC4. We had the kids this year that got the scholarship for community college next year, stand, and it was a big number of students who are fully supported now at the community college level, well over 100 at each of our 2 Class A high schools. So that was great to see as well. It doesn't matter where kids are going, but that they have a plan, and most of our kids leave us with a really definite plan on what they're going to do, and that's essential. But it was great just to be part of those ceremonies, see the families, and our kids are real gracious. They know and to thank. I watched a lot of thank yous over that week. Some to me personally, but I think our kids understand. They didn't get there alone. They didn't cross that line alone. Might even have seen a couple of parents and some teachers crying out in the audience.
And they go back and visit their elementary and middle school teachers, just to in that time period where you're reflecting on what you've done over a 13-year period, right, to get to the finish line. And I think that reflection process includes staff at the elementary and middle and high school levels, and certainly right up to the superintendent. Sure. So I know that's serious gratification.
I love those kindergarten teachers, and we have a couple that do this. They have the kids write themselves a letter 13 years later, and they save them. Those teachers save them, and some of them have retired and they come back, and some of them haven't. And then they give the kids the letter from themselves, and I just get the shivers thinking about that kind of stuff. That they do that.
Well, I have twin granddaughters that just graduated out of kindergarten at one of your schools, and so I can totally empathize with what you're thinking too. And I think the other thing about graduation ceremonies is the opportunity to kind of see them launch into the next phase of their lives. And I think people forget that this golden little thing we have in town called SC4, that more of our students go there than anywhere else. And that's an important, and I know you've built a really good relationship with the college as well.
Yeah, Kurt Kramer and Pete Lacey are incredible to work with. Our middle college is thriving. Our dual enrollment, which is kids, as you know, kids who take college classes while they're in high school, is thriving. And they've also got some things for our young kids. Their Challenger Center is we send I can't think of which grade level we send there, I think it's 7th. But we send all of our kids to the Challenger Center and to learn about those science and technology things that they do. It's just it's an asset to our city.
Sure is. Let's look forward now. And I was talking with RISA Superintendent Brenda Tenniswood a few weeks ago about public safety came to mind, and I know that was something that was near and dear to your heart, is developing a curriculum that students, both your students and students maybe all over the county, can benefit from, and a program that really used to exist, I don't know if you knew that, years ago at RISA, at the tech program, but bringing it back in a really cool handshake agreement between RISA and Port Huron Schools. So talk a little bit about how that happened. And
well, first, something like this would never happen with the old superintendent at
RISA.
No,
I would have said, no way we're doing that. I'd have been like, Theo, why did I come up with that idea?
No, but Brenda you were an incredible superintendent, Kevin. I love you. But Brenda's just great to work with. And we were talking at a meeting, and we kind of had a sidebar conversation. I've had some of these with you over I think we had about a middle college kind of got developed by one of these kind of conversations. But we had a conversation about the wait list for tech at RISA, and I was very surprised that we had 90 students that couldn't get into a program at tech. And I said, Brenda, we got to figure this out. Right? We got 90 kids that want, and these are pathways. And she said, well, we're kind of landlocked, like our building is full, and what can we do? And I said, well, can we use one of our buildings? And she goes, well, that's a really good idea. They do that in other places. And so she ran with it, and she surveyed the students that were trying to get into tech. And what do you want? Like go figure. Ask kids what they want, right? We do that all the time. It's important. And the vast majority of them wanted public safety, police, fire, EMS, 911. And we had just developed, or the city had just built a new fire station right near Woodrow Wilson's campus, elementary school. And I know the facility use of that building, we've got some space in that building.
Yeah.
And one of the spaces is a beautiful 2 rooms, all glassed in on the side, near the media center with access from the outside where you could park and stuff. I said, Brenda, come look at this space. And she brought some of her team over, we looked at it. They loved it, and then we brought some of the city and township fire departments and police departments and city managers in, and they loved it. And we said, we're going to do it. And hats off to Reese's team. They've really run with the idea. Their board and our board passed the idea to do it as well. Now it's full. I think they have a wait list, and we're going to start to have pathways for kids, in town to be part of the police department, fire department, EMS, 911. Great jobs, important jobs to our community, and a local pathway to it. I think it's a win-win-win. And so we're really looking forward to that. And as a guy, it's really exciting because I think I get to drive a fire truck and stuff like that.
I don't know if the keys are coming your way or not.
Well, maybe I'll get to see it in the. I've always wanted.
How about at the back where you drive the?
Oh man, I'm getting more excited. But and the reason I bring that up, although we're joking, is the city and the townships and those departments. They want this too, and they're eager to help. They've already donated some equipment that you say it's used, but they need and they should have the best equipment available. So sometimes that stuff gets turned over in a pretty quick manner, and so we've got stuff that is almost brand new, ready to use when we teach our kids, and like a new fire truck. Fire trucks are really, really expensive, like $800,000-900,000. And so when they go through their cycle of 10 years, the one that they have to replace is still in really good condition. It was putting out fires yesterday.
Yeah.
So now is that going to come to us? Is that going to be donated to us for $1 or whatnot? And so they've been really good about helping us out, and I know that relationship will continue, especially Port Huron Fire Department, because it's 100 yards from where the facility is. So what a great ability for us to work with them. And then the elementary school, Woodrow Wilson, they're excited because they've got role models, adult high school kids, juniors and seniors in the building, and the fire department coming in to help with them. We're going to have some great mentorships for our young kids from Woodrow Wilson as well. So just a win-win. And if you drive by Woodrow Wilson, look at the playground, because when we kind of knew this was happening, we had some money to buy new playground equipment, and it looks like fire trucks out there. So the kids are,
my goodness.
It's cute. It's cute.
You mentioned the word pathways a couple of times while you were answering my question, and I think that's important that because this program that you've developed will be under the guidelines of the state career and technical education. One of the things that we've always talked about in the county was the lack of space at the RISA campus at Tech, but that local districts are allowed to do career and technical education programs and get funded for those programs from the state. So space being the issue, this is just a great job I think you guys did of using your space, having it fall under the career and technical education. When you say pathways, these are career pathways, and that is a big one. Public service and safety is a big pathway, and you're going to help fill the need for those students.
Yeah, really excited about the future.
Yeah. So what else is kind of on top of mind that maybe you'd like over the next part of your career as superintendent of Port Huron?
Well, the big thing is having a trajectory for success into the future, because things are changing in education, right? In public education, funding is being reduced. The amount of teachers that are going into the system is far less. I think you remember when you went for your first teaching job. I know mine. There were 100 people applying for that job. Why they hired us, I don't know, but somebody rolled the dice and hired us. But now, you're going against, 15, 10, sometimes even less for some high needs positions like math, science, special ed. So we've got to build a place that is attractive to families and staff to do that. And we're in a really good position, but it can't stop. And the second thing is we need to tell our story and our image.
Yeah.
We've got an incredible district, and the success things that our kids do every single day are amazing. We need to keep telling that story.
Yeah.
So if when I leave Port Huron Schools, 3 years, 5 years, whenever, I hope the thing that I leave behind is this idea of stronger together. That our district, we have 2 big high schools, but we're stronger together. We have 3 middle schools, we're stronger together. We have 9 elementaries, but Port Huron area is stronger together. And I think that message going out to the community is really the cultural piece where I really try to
Well, I see bits and pieces of that in the materials that you put out, and in say a billboard that I see on I-94 leaving town, in that you have a middle college program. Mm-hmm. You have the programs that students can go to at Tech. You have an enormous number of AP classes that your students can take at the high school level. I talked recently with a high school student that's coming out of high school. And he wasn't even part of the middle college program with over 30 credit hours. 30 college credit hours while that student was in high school, at one of your 2 high schools. So I know that there's a lot of things that go on and a lot of things that you consider, but it's always about how do we best prepare the students for the next step in their lives, because they're going to leave us and have to live a life here, and we want them to live a great life.
Well, and I'll piggyback on that and tell you something I'm really proud of. So last year we offered African American AP studies, so advanced placement African American studies, and as you know, AP kids that take AP classes, they're often they do well in school, and they have some resources, and they end up taking a whole bunch, like probably the kid you just talked about. Well, African American Studies brought in some kids that sometimes never even thought about taking an AP class, and I interviewed some of the kids after, and a few of them, and the one kid in particular said, you know what, I never thought I could take an AP class, and I was very successful in this, and I'm going to take more in the future. And I said, mission accomplished.
Yes,
mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Right?
Boy, that'd warm your heart.
Oh, yeah, you didn't have to pay me that day, that's for sure.
It was. I was having a conversation off camera here with one of the staff, and talking about his son, who's very intelligent, scored very well on a standardized test, looking SAT for the future, but part of it is you have to get them to understand that they can do it. Mm-hmm. They can be successful.
Right. Just that taste of success can open up the door.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You get those stories quite often, and that's what makes the job gratifying, doesn't it?
Right.
So Theo, always good to see you.
You too,
always
brother.
good to hear about the job you're doing. I'm very proud to have worked with you and the job that you've done at Superintendent.
I had a great mentor.
It's been great working with you. And that'll wrap up this edition of Education Insights. We thank you so much for joining us here on Thumb Coast TV.